Hey everybody, it's Michael Paperno here, and thanks so much for joining me for this next episode of The Coaches Are In. As you know, each episode I invite a fellow coach to come on to talk about a leadership or communication topic, and today I'm so happy to have Tyler Mount here. Tyler is the CEO of Henry Street Creative, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And he's also a theatrical producer, and Tyler and I have a lot of that in common. We both studied theater arts, and we both have a love of theater, so we happen to geek out a little bit every time we talk about that stuff. But today, we're here to talk about authenticity and authentic leadership. But first, Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm excited to be here.
Great, good. So we've talked a couple times about personal branding and authenticity and how in both leadership and business, being your authentic self can really open doors and just do so much. And I'm not going to steal your thunder about what we've talked about. I'm going to turn it over to you, but let's start with that. So what does authenticity mean for you and your clients and your coaching and your leadership yourself? And then how did this become something that you've become so passionate about?
Where do I begin, Michael? I'll say that the idea of authenticity, whether I knew it or not, has been a really pivotal and incredible word and theme in my life from a young age. I grew up in small town Texas, 300 people, one stoplight. I desperately wanted to leave this town, not because it was bad, but it just wasn't meant for me. I knew from a young age that I was supposed to be in New York City. I knew from a young age that I felt different. I knew from a young age that I wasn't like other kids. Now, growing up in small town Texas, in a very conservative part of Texas, and then eventually moving to Austin and pursuing, just like you said, a degree in theater, I started to realize that one of those things, right, that made me feel different was the fact that I was very gay, right?
Right.
And then, and for a limited amount of time, I really had to live a life that wasn't authentic based on the sheer fact that I couldn't live my truth, and or I was afraid to, right?
Yeah.
And so once I was able to be very honest and authentic about who I was, my life and my career changed overnight. Not only did I realize that the people in my life would champion me no matter who I was authentically, but I could be not only happier, but much more successful being who I was unapologetically, regardless of who you are. That's why I'm a champion of authenticity in business. I have dedicated my life's work to helping CEOs, founders, Fortune 1, Fortune 5 leaders find authenticity in their business and consequently allow them to make more money, because consumers want to shop with someone that they trust versus being sold to a corporate entity.
Sure. And it's not only, I'm sure you found, it's not only the bottom line with the money too, but it's their team and it's their staff. I mean, people want, so I do a whole workshop on authentic leadership, and it's such a self-exploration for these folks, because not only is it about your values, not only is it about your guiding principles, not only is it about your leadership style, but it's how genuine and vulnerable you're being. And we're not talking about necessarily, look, you're comfortable sharing a lot of parts of your life. I'm comfortable sharing a lot of parts of my life. Some people aren't necessarily comfortable with doing that. That doesn't mean they can't still be themselves and be authentic.
Bingo.
In the
That's
workplace.
Exactly it, right? I say there's a big difference between personal information and private information, right?
Yeah.
And, I think one of the most toxic words in business is the idea of should. I hear all the time my clients say, well, I should dress this way, or I should act this way, or real estate agents don't do that, or executives don't do that. And my question to them is always, says who?
Yeah.
Right. If you think about some of the most prolific leaders in business, the person that comes to mind as one of the most prolific leaders in personal brand before it was a term is someone like Richard Branson. He unapologetically lived his life within the business, right? He wasn't wearing a suit and tie because that's what CEOs do. He said, this is who I am. This is what I'm passionate about. This is me unapologetically being authentic. And look at the level of success he was able to reach. I'll be honest, a large majority because of who he was.
Right. Yeah. And that should, I'm glad you brought up should, because I talk to clients a lot about let's stop shoulding here. Because
Mhm.
when you're shoulding, what are you doing? You're comparing. And then when you compare, then it's like there's a quote out there, comparison is the thief of joy. It's like if you're going to compare yourself to others and let somebody else's leadership journey or somebody else's opinion of you dictate how you should behave. I was just in a coaching session last week with a really wonderful leader who's so empathetic and so beautiful to his team. Okay, wonderful. And has a high performing team because of it, but who has a leader above them that's saying you're being too much kid gloves, you're being too this, you're being too that. So then he's saying to me, well, I guess I should not be. So I'm like, hold up, that's
Mhm.
someone trying to steal your superpower.
Yep.
And don't let
Bingo.
that happen just because you think you should or because they tell you you should. Look at the results you've gotten. That's
Bingo.
because you've done it the way that feels good for you. And look at the people on your team who are staying and look at the other team and they're not. So
Mhm.
just take that data
Mhm.
and
Bingo.
believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think vulnerability and authenticity is one of the greatest superpowers that we can have in terms of retention, right?
Yeah.
If I am myself and I have a quote unquote safe space and I encourage and celebrate people being themselves, whatever that is, I'm much more likely to retain the talent because of that.
Right. Absolutely. And that safe space is so important. And it's interesting, Tyler, because it's not hard to do
Mhm.
unless it's on your radar to do.
Mhm.
And that's something that I'm on a mission to teach people through a lot of my inclusion programs to
Mm.
do. It's not like you don't have to agree with everything that everybody says or does,
Right?
but you do have, I mean, you can respect it, right?
Bingo.
Can't you?
That's exactly it.
And when you can do that, then you're opening the door for people to be able to feel safe
Mhm.
being their whole self at work.
Mhm.
So I'm
That's
so
exactly
glad we're in an era that cares about this because, you know, I'm 51 years old and the first 25, 30 years of my life, the business world didn't care about it. It was like, check your emotions at the door, you know, and I'm a gay person too. I hid my identity at work until I was probably 27 years old.
Yeah.
And you know how I got out of it? Starting my own business.
Yeah.
I was
Right?
so tired of hiding at work that I was like, you got to do something about this because you're not excelling
Mhm.
at work because you're hiding yourself.
Yeah.
Isn't
Exactly
that
right.
sad? But it's the truth.
I was about to say sad, sure, but also what a lot of people deal with, not even about sexuality. I mean, like, sure, that's a part of it. It can be religion, skin color,
Mm-hmm.
passions, socioeconomic status, birthplace. All of those things
Yeah.
weigh deeply on humans exclusively because of the way and the pressure that we put on ourselves to be a
Right.
certain way because we falsely believe other people need us to be the way we think we need them to be.
Right. So, okay, good. So you're transitioning. What are some ways that you stop yourself from doing that or telling yourself that narrative or find ways to really be your authentic self if you don't think you are?
Right. So there are two major philosophies that I ascribe to. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I'll remind you, Michael, in case you didn't know, do you know how this ends? Right? We die. Okay.
Right.
That's how it ends. That's how it ends. Spoiler alert.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, nothing really matters. This isn't me being depressed. This isn't me being apathetic.
Yeah.
I am a hustler by nature. I absolutely love work. I love helping people be successful. That is innately who I am. This is not a conversation of depression or apathy at all, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
It is a layer of context to put things into perspective, okay? Life is short, especially in the grand scheme of the length of time the universe has or will exist, okay? We are
Mm-hmm.
a speck of dust. And so
Right.
a lot of the things we give weight to and put pressure on ourselves surrounding, frankly, they don't matter. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that we really have to start to reconcile. And the second thing that I always want to focus on top of what we just discussed is that no matter who you are, there will always be a group of people who dissent. What I mean by that,
Right.
there are people on earth, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. There are people on earth who do not want to work with women because men are more powerful. There are
Mm-hmm.
women on earth who don't want to work with men because they are aggressive and scary. There are Democrats who don't want to work with Republicans, Republicans who don't want to work with Democrats, straight people who refuse to work with gay people who only want to work with gay people. Okay?
Right.
No matter who you are, authentic or inauthentic, there's going to be a group of people that don't want to work with you because of who you are or who you're acting like you are.
Right.
So why not show up authentically, knowing that people will dissent no matter what? The combination and the intersection between understanding that life's too short to care, in addition to the fact that no matter who we are, people are going to have an issue with it, is a beautiful, super positive reality that allows me and allows my clients to start to rationalize and add perspective to why am I miserable every day doing this to please the idea of what I think my parents want or what clients want or what my boss wants, right? If your boss doesn't like you because you're X, get another boss, right? Like deeply, 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 it's truthful, right?
Yeah.
The idea that half of the people in this country are employed and the idea that you can't is insane. Right. So that's how we really start to rationalize it. And then we can talk about like, what are those very clear black and white action items that we can start harnessing in our business in order to move the needle?
Right. Absolutely. Oh man, I so agree with that. And that's one of the life lessons I've learned is that when I've stopped trying to serve people just because I felt like I should serve anybody who wants to work with me. And I really was like, oh no, you want to work with and for the people who really want to work with you. And it's amazing when you stop trying to chase the ones that aren't your tribe. It's amazing how much the doors open for your tribe to show up for you. I don't know. It's just this phenomenon that I've experienced over and over again as an entrepreneur and a business person.
There's something to be said about a confidence and a knowingness in who you are and how people perceive that as you having a knowingness and a confidence in your ability to help their business. So I will tell you, I can't count the number of times decades ago that I would try to act a certain way, act straight, act more masculine, act, whatever I needed to act like I thought in order to get the job, get the gig. Okay.
Right.
I now have been very fortunate in my career to work with some of the most prolific leaders in industry. Yeah. And I will tell you, I show up in the room exactly the same way I show up in the room with my best friends. And if a Fortune 100 CEO doesn't want to work with me because I am too energetic or too gay or my ideas are a little out of the box, then I'm not offended. They just don't need me as a provider. And I will tell you, I always get the gig because there is something about me being in a room saying, this is who I am. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm wildly confident in who I am. Okay. That translates to my ability to impact business. And so we find that to not only make me less overwhelmed and make me more excited to do my job every day, but also allows us to make more money because of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want to be with people who want to be with you. You want to work for people who want to work with you. I love that. That's great. Well, listen, so one of the things I really appreciate about you, following you on social media, I only follow you on LinkedIn. I'm sure you're on other properties as well, but
that's fine.
I follow you on LinkedIn. And it's like every post is like, yeah, there's Tyler showing how to be authentic, to be authentically you, and encouraging other people to do the same. And I really love what you're doing with all that. It's a really wonderful message. So thank you for being out there and for doing that.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it. I mean, like, I have gotten asked publicly, like, Tyler, how did you and why did you decide to be like super irreverent on LinkedIn? Shouldn't you be a little bit more buttoned up? My answer is I'm never unprofessional. I'm just wildly authentic. If you talk to me for any given amount of time and then you go to LinkedIn, you're like, yep, that's Tyler. Tyler wrote that. Right. And again, if people are messaging me on LinkedIn wanting meetings with me, they already know who they're going to get. Right. And so it's setting expectations and makes my job easier. I'm never really having to have a conversation with someone who's like, oh, didn't expect that. Right. And so it sets me up for success. It sets the client up for success as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, I want you to get some time to talk to folks here about how they can find out more about you and the work that you do. So talk a little bit about your consulting work, about Henry Street Creative, and about how people can reach out to you and get to know you.
Yeah, of course. Um, so, I have in my career worked with a lot of people who have taught me how not to run a business. I'm not talking about
Mm,
financial success. I'm talking about ethical success. I'm talking about kindness. I'm talking about generosity. And I deeply believe that lighting someone else's candle doesn't extinguish your own. It's one of the most
mm,
prolific things I've ever heard in my career. And I live my life by it. And so anytime I have an incredible opportunity like this one to come talk to you and talk to your listeners, I say the same thing. It's my job and my life's work, despite being probably cheesy and nerdy, is to help people find their authenticity and level up their business because of it from a digital marketing and a digital ecosystem perspective. But
mhm.
in order to do that, I have to make sure people have information. I have to make sure that people know what they don't know. And
Right.
so anytime I have an opportunity like this, I give everyone the same exact opportunity. There is no catch. This is not a timeshare. If you go to tylergmount.com, TYLERGMOUNT.com, you can sign up for a free, no catch, no obligation 30-minute audit with my strategy team. On that call, we're going to, for completely free, go through your ecosystem, walk through what is working, what isn't working, and then right on that call, provide resources and provide action items in terms of how we can move the needle in your business immediately, right? and
Mhm.
and people ask me, well, isn't that bad salesmanship? Aren't you spending a lot of money for a strategy team that isn't billing? And I say, yeah, I'm spending a lot of money on a strategy team that's not billing. But if me or someone from my team spending 30 minutes with someone changes the trajectory or course of their career, I can go to sleep easily at night, right?
Yeah.
And I deeply believe it comes back tenfold. I deeply believe that word of mouth is one of the most powerful weapons in business. And I've been really successful because of it. So the offer stands to everyone listening right now. Go to tylergmount.com, sign up for a free audit, learn a little bit more about me and my portfolio and my career, coaching and helping some of the industry's biggest leaders. And I would love to have you chat with someone from my team.
Awesome, Tyler. Thank you so much. You and I think the same way. That's why I like talking to you so
Uh,
much. So
I appreciate it.
we have the
I
same
totally agree.
philosophies.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me, Michael.
You got it. Thanks so much.